Bezat Hashem, can you hear me and see me, everybody okay? Okay, so Bezat Hashem, again, welcome to our weekly shi'ur. Bezat Hashem, Magen David in Maryland. We want to first and foremost say happy Rosh Chodesh Adar Bet, Mishenas Adar. Marbim said that is none other than one of the grandson of Haman HaRasha that converted, and he was a rabbi that was actually ordained by Rabbi Akiva. His name Rabbi Shmuel Bar Shilat, and he's the one that says in Masechet Ta'anit, Mishenichnas Adar Marbin Besimcha, Umishenichnas Av Mamitim. When Adar comes, we have a lot of happiness. And even though today we know that, they have the new deal with Iran for the nuclear and all that, but it's exactly v'na'afochu. It's no coincidence it happened on today's Rosh Chodesh, Haman, Humeini, as we know, but Parashat PEKUDEI, more importantly, Be'ezat Hashem, Rafua Shlema to everybody. And Be'ezat Hashem, also I want to dedicate this class, a special Rafua Shlema, a young lady that passed a surgery, Rovit'al bat Rachel, but Eilna, who has a surgery tomorrow, Rafua Shlema. So Parashat PEKUDEI, by the way, is the last parasha of the book of Exodus. And as we mentioned before, usually in a non-leap year, this parasha is read together with Vayakhel, but because we're in a leap year this year, we have this PEKUDEI alone. And PEKUDEI, by the way, the whole 23rd, from the 26th of Kislev until the 1st of Nisan. Yes?
Please give permission to record.
Okay, please, yeah.
No, you have to do it. You're the host.
Oh, I am the host. Okay, no, usually, okay, so.
Hi, Rob. I am here. I can start whenever you're ready.
Yeah, Adam, go ahead. You know what? Let's go ahead and start.
Thank you, Adam.
Sorry for the delay.
That's okay. So,
recording in progress.
Again, Rosh Chodesh Tov, Rosh Chodesh Adar Bet, Be'ezat Hashem. We'll have a little repetition because it wasn't recording. So, Mishenichnas Adar Marbim Besimcha, as we said, Be'ezat Hashem. And of course, this is the second month of Adar, a leap year, Parashat PEKUDEI. Again, I want to dedicate the class to two young ladies, one that just passed the surgery, Rafua Shlema Rovit'al bat Rachel, and tomorrow, Be'ezat Hashem, another surgery, Dvora bat Eilna, Rafua Shlema. So, Mishenichnas Adar Marbim Besimcha, as we know, this is said none other than the grandson of Haman HaRasha, Rabbi Shmuel Bar Shilat, as he was ordained by Rabbi Akiva, and he was the rabbi of all the children in Bnei Brak. Parashat PEKUDEI, as we mentioned, is the last parasha of the book of Exodus. The dates of this parasha in the Jewish calendar is from the 26th of Kislev until the 1st of Nisan. This is Parashat PEKUDEI of the second year, 2449. It's called Yemei HaMiluim. As we know, the Mishkan took 70 days to build, and it was done from the 26th of Tishrei until Chanukah, until Kafhei Bekislev. And then Moshe Rabbeinu wanted to practice. Hashem says, no, the first practice will be on the 23rd of Adar. It will be 8 days of Miluim, the day that you'll be teaching the entire staff of the Kehuna, the Levites in Israel, everything that has to do with the tabernacle. As we know, the tabernacle, basically, Moshe Rabbeinu, because he remained a Levite, Hashem gave him the merit to be the first Kohen in the world to do sacrifice. The 8 days of Yemei HaMiluim until the Mishkan was erected on the 1st of Nisan, Moshe Rabbeinu did everything, all the sacrifices. He showed them how to assemble and disassemble and how to carry and what to do. For those 8 days, Moshe Rabbeinu was the high priest. And of course, Moshe Rabbeinu, with his humility and modesty, was very, very, very humble that for 1 second, the Zohar Kadosh, he had no jealousy in his brother Aharon, nor his children of Aharon. As we know, Moshe's children, they did not continue his path. Rather, Aharon's children continued the kahuna. So, now that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave the Mishkan, basically giving a tabernacle on earth, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is ensuring the existence of earth, because we have the pasuk says in lo beriti yomam v'layla chukot shamayim va'aretz lo samti. If there is no Torah in this world, the world would not exist. All the laws of what I said and created in this world, we would not exist, basically only because of the Torah. And of course, whether we have a Mishkan or Bet HaMikdash or not, the Torah had to be taught, the Torah had to be learned. And of course, those, as we know, the Mishkan was created by Bezalel and Aholiav, two young children, 12 and 13 years old, the grandson of Hur, as we mentioned. Hur was actually the son of Miriam and Caleb ben Yefuneh, and he basically not to make the golden calf. And of course, the Aholiav was Nachshon ben Aminadab's grandson, and Nachshon ben Aminadav is the first one to go into the Sea of Reeds for Yam Suf, and the water split. So of course, we know the Midrash says in Tanhuma, for 120 days in Mount Sinai, Hashem says to him that you should build the Mishkan now. Not that I gave you the entire Torah, the written, the oral Torah, and the Kabbalah, the Zohar, Kadosh. He says to him, now you can build the Mishkan. That's why we say on Yom HaKippurim, Salachti kidvarecha. Hashem says, I forgive you of what you said. It was done for him on Yom HaKippurim. That says in the book of Shmot, as we see here, Ve'asu li migdash, ובו באותו יום הקדוש ברוך הוא says וסלחת לעוונותינו וחטאנו. It says that we say Hashem will forgive us on Yom HaKippurim, because that's the day when HaKadosh Baruch Hu instructed Moshe to do the Mishkan. So the Mishkan opens Ele HaPekudei. Moshe Rabbeinu, now that everything is done, he's doing the accounting. This is really a big mitzvah of the Oraita. When you have a shul, you have a synagogue, you have a college, you have a yeshiva. When money is donated, you have to give a report where the money went to. Moshe Rabbeinu is really, in a sense, he says to the people of Israel, listen, even though Hashem put me to, lead you and all, I will give you accounting of everything that you've done in order for you to really, be able to understand all the money that you donated, all the gold that you donated, the silver, and all the 13 items that were donated. What do we use it for, and why we used it, and where did it go? That's why the Torah says, Ele PEKUDEI HaMishkan, Mishkan. The answer to your counting, it will be also the testament of the parts that came to the Mishkan. It says, Mishkan Aidut. If you notice, the Torah says, HaMishkan, Mishkan Aidut, 3 times. HaMishkan, with a Hey, Mishkan, and a testimony. So, it's very interesting. The Baal HaTurim HaKadosh says this is really, in a sense, essence of the 3, Beit HaMikdash. HaMishkan, the first one is 415, which is in Gematria, plus the 5 letters, is alluding to the first Beit HaMikdash that stood the second Beit HaMikdash that stood for 420 years. And Mishkan in Gematria is actually 410, which allude to the first Beit HaMikdash, and Ha'edut, which is 479, the tabernacle that stood until the 480, which the first Beit HaMikdash was built by King Solomon. It says the Zohar Kadosh very, very, very rich. He was not rich until the moment he actually was asked to make the second tablets. When Hashem says to him, Besol Lecha, as we mentioned, Moshe says, where am I going to find the same kind of amazing, diamond like that you gave us?
Like last week, every 30 seconds, you cut off for 30 seconds and come back. It's very tough to follow because, intermittent, you just out. You picture freezes and your audio completely gets cut off. I've seen a couple of people just dropped out. I'm not sure where the fault is, whether from your side or from this side. But it looks like everybody has the same problem.
My thing source is a full, Wi-Fi, but my apology, I don't think it's on. But I do classes all the time, but I don't know. It's only with yours for some reason. Anything you guys can switch network there? Adam? Can you hear me? Can you hear? So I'll continue with the assumption that you can hear me, Be'ezat Hashem, and see me. So, of course, as we mentioned, that now that Moshe Rabbeinu giving the accounting, because, the people of Israel saw that he was very rich, because he found under his tent the stones, the sapphire, to make the second set. And Hashem says, Pesol lecha, the remainders is for you. Why? Because you were dealing with basically items that, Bezalel created. It was very much testament to what was given. So there was a full accounting of everything. And of course, the Torah gives the amounts, how much from every, gold, every silver, and so elevated that whatever you gave, we have, as the Torah says, Teshav Esrim Kikar Shvamot Shloshim. Kikar, by the way, the Rambam says it's about, and imagine how much gold and how much silver and copper and everything else was given. And of course, plus what we call Machatzit HaShekel. Machatzit HaShekel, as we mentioned, there was 603,550 members of the Tzvaot Hashem from 20 to 60. Very interesting. In this week, Parasha, it says 20 to 60. And, in Ukraine, Zelensky said to all the men from 20 to 60, they cannot leave, right? They have to come and fight. Coincident? Not really. Of course, we know the Torah says that this entire was 100 kikar of the silver. So 100 kikar is really, it says we have a 48, 48 that were the Mishkan plus the 2 for the Parochet. And each one of them had 2 bases called Adanim of silver. That's exactly 100 kikar for all of this. So the accounting was so accurate that the people of Israel for 1 second will never have anything that has to do with Moshe Rabbeinu. The Midrash says that, when Moshe Rabbeinu was doing the days of the Miluim from the 23rd of Adar until the 1st of Nisan, he said that the Midrash Rabbah says that half of the people were jealous of him and half of the people were so proud of him. They were jealous of him not because Chaz v'Chalila he was anything but great. They said, Ayu mistaklim alav, and not to mention Hashem spoke to him. So there was some jealousy, but not for the bad reason, Chaz v'Chalila, just because, people sometimes, Asamech bechelko, who is happy, that's the happy of his friends' share and part. And of course, the other kind says, how blessed is his mother to have such son. And Moshe Rabbeinu wanted to really make sure that everybody understood that whatever they gave was used for the Mishkan, none of it was taken. Today we know that by the time you get your donation, there's always process of what's going without the donation, what's going to administration part, what's really going for tzedakah. In the essence of the Mishkan, everybody understood that everything was for the Mishkan. There was nothing else but for the Mishkan. And of course, we know that the word HaMishkan is also the Hey, is really, we know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, when he created the world, it says Behei Bera'am, right, in Bereshit, Behei Bera'am. It says that the entire world creation was just in the letter Hey. Now the people of Israel will have this Mishkan. And of course, the Torah will continue and says that everybody that gave, and list all the items and where they went. And of course, we're talking about also the clothing of the Kohen, the clothing of the Gadol that was made. There were, as we mentioned, 8 parts to the high priest and 4 parts to the Kohen Idiot, the lower level of Kohen. And this accounting basically now is placed in the hands of Itamar from Shevet Levi. As we know, Aaron had 4 sons, and of course, all of them were very, very. So everything looks fine.
I wish I understand how it works, but
yeah.
Every 2 minutes we are losing you.
You know what? I don't know. I mean, on our end, I see everything, but can you see there? Okay. Now it's on. Okay.
Now it's okay.
Okay. So the letter Hey also said that those are the 5 things that King Solomon hid from the second Bet HaMikdash. As we know, the Aron, the menorah, the fire, Ruach HaKodesh, and the cherubim, the cherubs, those 5 items did not go to the second temple. Of course, it says that those Yemei HaMiluim, Moshe Rabbeinu, basically says, Be'alef Ben Nisan, when he finished training and teaching everybody, he would lift the Mishkan by himself. The TORAH was actually 50 amma. It was very 25 meters, just the main beams of the Mishkan at such strength that only him could do that. Nobody could have done it. As we say, we know Moshe Rabbeinu was very, very strong. Also, says the Gemara in Masechet Sukkah, something amazing. It says that Ele HaPekudim, Ele in Gematria is 36. I will give you in every generation 36 tzaddikim, Lamed Vav, righteous people that will protect you. Whether the Mishkan or the Bet HaMikdash exists, the tabernacle or Bet HaMikdash exists, I will give you 36 tzaddikim every generation. You'll have that, and amongst them you'll have the Mashiach. One of them will be the Mashiach. In every generation you have a Mashiach. The Arizal, by the way, was one of them. He said that it's really up to us to reveal Mashiach, but every generation is Mashiach. Of course, the Ramban was one of them. You know, the Ramban, if you remember, he was born in Spain, and then there was a very, very big discussion that the king called upon the Ramban and the high priest to argue what religion Spain should be in. Because, you know, the king was not so adamant about the Christianity. Christianity, you know, there were murders. You know, there were very much people that live by the sword. They go from country to country, horrific things. So, you know, believe it or not, there was a Jewish guy that was not religious or reformed, named actually Pablo Cristofani. And Pablo called upon to do an argument, a 3-day so-called seminar, and he invited the Nachmanides, the Rabbi Moshe ben Nachman. It was 772 years ago, and he invited him to argue against the church. There's a book about it today, and the Ramban won the argument, and the king actually rewarded him with 300 gold dinars, gold coins, and blessed him. And it says, you're right, actually your God is very much the truth. And the church since that moment wanted to kill the Rabbi Moshe ben Nachman, and Rabbi Moshe ben Nachman in 1267 escaped to Jerusalem. And when he arrived at Jerusalem, he was looking for a minyan. Again, this is like 772 years ago. He reached Yerushalayim, and he found only one guy, a painter with 3 sons. That's all the Jews that were in Jerusalem in 1267. And there were 5 people. And they were so upset, those family of, you know, after they met the Ramban, said, wow, big rabbi, we don't have a minyan. And the Ramban says, don't worry, I promise you, this city will be so full. There'll be children running in the street. There'll be all the men and women walking. There'll be shuls. There'll be even wedding halls, everything. 5 people. And look today, Baruch Hashem, almost 1 million people, Jewish religious people that come every day to Yerushalayim. And that's exactly what the Ele 36 tzaddikim, the hidden tzaddikim, that's in every generation. By the way, speaking of the Ramban, he was, of course, you know, the later, you know, prophet of his time. And he actually revealed to us that basically he revealed to us that already did, even in his time. And in our time, of course, a lot of them already happened. And of course, the last prophecies of Mashiach also will happen. So we see that no matter what, this is Ele HaPekudim. These are what I give you. I give part of tzaddikim. They'll be in everyone. So it says here, HaKadosh Baruch Hu instructed Moshe b'shmonat yamim in those days to put, really to anoint every items and every Kohen and every son. It says first, he also had to do 3 korbanot. He had to do the 3 sacrifices, the par, which is the ox. This one was meant to do and take the blood and put on top of the altars. Then the aisle, which is the ram that really resemble also the ram of Avraham Avinu, and put that on the bottom of the so-called altars, and the aisle, the miluim, you put on the Kohanim. So, when it comes to the Kohanim, as we mentioned before, they had such a special, ability to atone for the whole world. As we mentioned before, when King Solomon built the temple, the first blessing he said, I want you to, Hashem, answer the goyim, the non-Jews blessing first. Their tefillot answer first. And that's how you maintain 410 years of all the 70 nations providing for the people of Israel. We are very much right now, as we see with our current event, we have a joke in Israel that Putin right now is becoming Baal Tshuva, is going to Uman in Purim. So he'll be in Uman, he's already there. But speaking of Uman, there's Rabbi Nachman from Breslev. That's one of the other 36 tzaddikim. Rabbi Nachman from Breslev, he was actually the great-grandson of the Baal Shem Tov. And he was born in 1772, and he died on 1810. And Rabbi Nachman always said, and again, this is in Ukraine, right? Many people, as far as the history of Ukraine, I don't know if you remember or know, they actually murdered 1.5 million Jews in the Holocaust. 1.5 million Jews. We don't understand how Hashem works and why. But Putin right now, by the way, just the history as far as Putin, again, we only believe in Hashem and everything is from him. Putin was the first ever history of Russia president to help Jews. When he was a kid, he was very poor. There was a Jewish family that took care of him for 11 years. They fed him, teach him everything. When he went to school, he had a Jewish teacher. And when he actually graduated, when his early 20s, he became a mayor of the city. And he saw that there is no Jewish school. So he went to the Kremlin and he asked the minister of education, how come there's no Jewish school in my city, in my town? And the minister says to him, listen, I'm Jewish. And if I said to build Jewish school, they probably will kill me in the city. And he actually speaks every week to the head rabbi of Russia. And he's the one that allowed Israel to bombard everywhere they want in the Middle East, because, he is in control of Iran, in Syria, he controls Lebanon, he controls Iraq, he controls everything. Make no mistake. But he said, I will avenge the murders of Ukrainians. That's what was revealed by the head rabbi of Russia. And Putin is the first one in 1,000 years of Russia that helped the Jewish people. No other president ever did that. To his teacher, by the way, he bought an apartment in Tel Aviv and sent her, paid full for it, and he take care of her. She was very old, everything she needed. We see that today God is moving a lot of things. This is Parashat PEKUDEI. We don't understand the accounting of God. We don't understand what Hashem does. Yes, no. And really, in a sense, we have to understand that everything that's happening now, it's really another prophecy that's coming to life. It's called Acharit Hayamim. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, as we know now, have the Mishkan for the people of Israel. The Mishkan in Hebrew is also Mashkon. It's really a collateral that Hashem gives to the people of Israel. So the question is, why Hashem did that? Rabbi Akiva, the Gemara will tell us that one day, when the destruction of the temple, we had basically 4 Rabbanim that came to Har HaBayit. They were walking and they were looking around the Mikdash. After Titus destroyed the second temple, the Gemara will tell us in Masechet Makot, by the way, 24, Daf 24, it says that there were 4 Rabbanim, Rabban Gamliel, Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, Rabbi Yoshua and Rabbi Akiva. They went and they saw the destruction of the temple. And of course, Rabban Gamliel was very sad. He says, look, at our holy place. We used to do sacrifice here. Look at it today. Of course, the young rabbi, the youngest rabbi of the Sanhedrin of the time was Rabbi Elazar ben Azar, was only 18 years old. And he too says, Al mishkavi balelot shomea ani et ha'ir bocha. He says, when I sleep, I hear the city cries. And of course, he says, even the stones cry of the Mishkan. Rabbi Yoshua, hearing that, says exactly, look, we used to stand here, every sacrifice, stand here all the time, and we used to do everything that we do it now anymore. So come, Rabbi Akiva looked at all of them and smiles. It says, they all said to him, why are you smiling? What is going on? You don't see the destruction, we're all crying and you're smiling. Rabbi Akiva says to them, I want you to know that even you see now this fox coming out of the ruin, it's better that Hashem destroyed the stones and the woods and not the people of Israel. Rather than destroy the people of Israel, I guarantee you a third temple. And then they all smiled and they said to him, thank you, Rabbi Akiva. Now, nichamta otanu, you actually very much comforted us. So we see that after the destruction and everything like that, of course, this Mishkan, that even Titus, in the second temple, and of course, Nebuchadnezzar, when they took all the items to Bavel in the first Galut, and then Koresh, the first Koresh says, go return and build it, the second back, with everything that was taken from Bet HaMikdash to rebuild the Bet HaMikdash after 7 years. And of course, we know that Titus took everything, and he took the menorah with him. We have the famous Sha'ar HaNitzachon, it's called the Gates of Rome. As we know, there is the menorah and everything there. And of course, by the way, speaking of the menorah, when the people of Israel returned to the land of Israel to build in 1948, back in the land of Israel, as we know, basically most of them were not really religious people, or to say the least, and they wanted to do the original announcement of the land of Israel on Shabbat, on the 6th of Iyar. And of course, there was few Rabbanim, including Rabbi and Rabbi Goren and others, that said, no, you cannot do it on Shabbat. We're a Jewish nation. How can you do a declaration, have everybody drive on Shabbat to come and see Shabbat? And they moved it to actually Hey Be'iyar on Friday, but they still did it very late at 4 p.m. Ben Gurion and everybody in Tel Aviv. So we see that even sometimes we don't understand why things happen in a way that very, very much, outside of our realm of understanding. I always say why we got it back in 1948 is because of Abraham was promised when he was born in 1948 that he will receive the land of Israel. Of course, after they saw that, the people, the rabbis of Israel, originally, they wanted to put the flag of Israel, like we have here, the Star of David, right? They wanted to put that. But the rabbis insisted on taking and putting the menorah as the sign of Israel, not the flag. The menorah, as we know, if you look at the Knesset, the House of Parliament of Israel, into it, rather than just like a star. They call it a Star of David, but it's not really a star. Star has five corners, right, as we know. But the Magen David, just so you know, is actually, the Kabbalah says something of Magen Avraham, and then we have Magen David. Hashem gave two Magenim, two guardians, Avraham and David, to save the entire people of Israel. And that's really the real Magen David. And the menorah, it's what today, because why is the menorah that was taken by Titus, into Romi, and as we know, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, by the way, courtyard of the Mishkan, Ner HaTamid, the fire that would light forever, the Kohen Sita Shekel that was given, the silver, and of course the Kior, which is based. He says to Moshe something amazing. He says to him, I want you to anoint Aharon, but anoint